Good morning. My name is Ting-an. It's my great pleasure to be here and present this paper. I'm currently an assistant professor in philosophy at the University of Connecticut, based in the United States. And this is a collaborate work with Linus Huang, who is a philosopher based in Hong Kong. So this paper is called AI, Normality, and Oppressive Things. And this is motivated by seeing this increasing trend of developing AI, accent alteration AI systems. Many of those companies or startups are leading this trend are based in the global north, for example, in Silicon Valley. Like in this photo, I'm standing in Palo Alto in front of one of the startups called Linus, which is one of the leading startup company. But the tools they developed are primarily used in global south. For example, some of the call centers in India or Philippines. And that will be using to alter the accents of those call center workers in real time and make them sound more like some of the standardized Western American accents. So lots of the narratives have been focusing on the benefits of such kind of tools. For example, it will reduce the communication barriers, or that it will help those call center workers or people with quote unquote stronger accent to avoid accent prejudice against them. And in this paper, we kind of problematize this claim and point out some of the moral issues with such tools. And I will be appealing to these philosophical notions called oppressive things to argue that those kind of accent alteration AI system is a form of oppressive things. So in the following, I will first explain this notion of oppressive things, and then to explain how might AI system function as oppressive things. And lastly, I will point out some of the implications of this analysis. So we currently live in a system that's full of many different systems of oppressions, racism, sexism, or ableism, to name just a few. In the philosophical literature, that philosophers, when analyzing systems of oppressions, they have been primarily focusing on, for example, the cultural and psychological components that's sustaining this system of oppressions. And until more recently, that Liao and Huebner's, they are philosophers, and they joined on some of the STS studies, including the very influential Winner's papers, to point this idea of oppressive things in order to highlight that the physical components or artifacts that also play an essential role in sustaining the systems of oppression. So they define oppressive things as physical components that are congruent with oppressive systems in their situated social historical context. And they further provide three conditions of a congruence that are same direction, causally embedded, and bidirectional. So that means that the kind of biases manifest by the artifact should be in the same directions of the biases that existing in the oppressive systems. For example, a placard and explicitly say that we serve whites only, it will be manifesting some of the biases that against people of color, which is the same direction with the racist system that we currently at. But furthermore, there are some of the bidirectional causal relation between this physical components and the other components. So in one way, that is because that people are situated in this a racist cultural norms, and they have this kind of a racist bias, they will make such kind of a placard. But on the other hand, by placing this placard in public, this physical component further exert some of the causal components and to justify and reinforce people's ideas. So they function as a material anchor to sustain the system of oppression. Quick clarification of these notions. First, oppressive things focusing on the functional role that the artifacts plays, and instead of assuming there's some malicious intention behind the design. So malicious intention is compatible, but it's not required. Second, that the biases of oppressive things may be manifest in a more evident or also subtler way. So the placard example is one of the more explicit expressions of those kind of racist biases. But there can be also other forms of oppressive things that might be exerting the kind of biases or reinforcing stereotypes, for example, through meme jar or a code as sturdy cards, or even the example of soap dispensers that just responding to people very differently. But lastly, that some of the oppressive things that function in a subtle way doesn't make that not necessarily means that they are not morally problematic, but rather still they function as a material anchors that by interacting with that, they reinforce people's beliefs. So now moving on to AI systems might function as oppressive things. So in the paper, we kind of make a small and friendly amendment of the original definition of Liao and Hübner to make sure that their definition also applied or we can use this notion of oppressive things to include like digital components such as AI systems. So based on that, we can call an AI system as oppressive things or refer to them as oppressive AI systems when they are congruent with oppressive systems they're existing in their situated social technical context. So we further classify like three different ways that AI system can function as oppressive things. So they can manifest the biases through the content or differences of performance and also through style. So I think that the audience in this room might be more familiar with the examples in the content and the performance already. So I'll be focusing more on this third category called style. Here by style, we're referring to some of the important features that are not part of the explicit content, but nonetheless still conveyed in the output of AI. So for example, like the accent or some of the writing style that's adopted by AI systems. So the examples of accent alteration AI system is one example of this sort. Okay, so when those systems are implemented in the call centers, then when the users, both the call center workers and the people calling the call center, interacting with those kind of artifacts, there are some of the reinforcement of this kind of accent prejudice that is influenced by the racial and colonial paradigm, and that it still continue to regard the standardized American accent as the normality, as the more accurate or normal accent or aesthetically like a more nice sounding. And in contrast, to treat the accents to other accents as like deviations, and that is why it needs to be like a rectify or to like negate. So when we adopt this notion of oppressive things, we can also better see that some of the alleged benefits of those tools is not just a straightforward story, but rather we can capture this by this notion of oppressive double bind, which several feminist scholars have tried to capture this kind of phenomenon that people of oppressive group, of the oppressed group, they are often caught in something like as a double bind that caught in between, that damn if you do or damn if you don't. But no matter which one they decided to do, they will become a mechanism in their own oppression. So in the case of like call center workers, if they don't use the accent alteration systems, then they will be very easily to expose to the accent biases or the prejudice against them, right? The customers tend to be more hostile or rate their services as like a lower rating. But in contrast, if they use these accent alteration systems, and they might function to reinforce this kind of accent prejudice that's also against their own accents. So by to adopting this notion of oppressions and to situate the artifact in the broader context, we can better see some of the nuance of the impacts that AI systems bring to the world. So I want to wrap up by highlight some of the implications. So first, this notion of oppressive things help us to discern some of the moral differences of the biased AI systems. So there are so many AI systems be referring to as biases, but by incorporating this notion, we will notice that some AI systems are also oppressive, whereas some other biased systems might not. Then we need to pay attention to like whether they are congruent with the broader systems. Second, we want to highlight that the AI system has the causal impacts on human psychology and culture. So they are not just merely mirror or reflect human biases. They also function as a material anchor to further impose causal influences. Third, it urged the attention to be paid to some of the subtler ways that AI systems sustain oppression. So in addition to content and then performance, their style and maybe some other forms. Lastly, in order to address oppressive AI systems, we should go beyond fixing some of the oppressive outcomes or problematic outcomes, but further to challenge some of the unjust power hierarchy surrounding the whole system and the artifacts. Right, so to end, I wanted to highlight that this paper, it's under like a non-archival to like accommodate the philosophical like discipline norm. So it's like under review in a philosophy journal. But if you're interested in reading this draft, please feel free to email me, and I'm more than happy to share that with you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the question.